Alabama 1st and 10 on the 12. Again, Houston. He's got a hole. He's over. Alabama touchdown.
I'm just wondering if your listeners know how good a football player you were. I can still see you playing that fullback, knocking those players out of the way. And that I believe I could have run behind you.
Martin, I can remember when we came to summer and you were playing fullback up there, and I saw you in the weight room and watched you work out in the weight room. If you could you were strong enough to pick up the whole weight room. I wanted to fix it, and I run it back so didn't take it. Biggest mistake we ever made.
The Martin Houston Show with national championship winning fullback Martin Houston, giving you 1 hour of intense, hard-hitting analysis from an insider's perspective. It's time for the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports, Tide 100.9, and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Good morning. Welcome into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier, powered by Mac Sports on Tide 100.9. We're talking Alabama sports. It's the Sound of Bama Sports, your show, your team. Thanks for all you do to help us be great. We thank you for your support. You can show us that love by joining us on the live stream at Alabama Sports with Martin Houston, or for those of you who tune in on the radio airwaves, join us at Alabama One hotline, 205-342-9904. That's the Alabama One hotline. So I encourage you to join us in the conversation. Whichever way is the best way for you to interact. And for those of you who join in the other streams, we welcome you into the conversation. But if you want to be connected with post-game activities, make sure you join Alabama Sports with Martin Houston. That's the official page for the Martin Houston Show. So appreciate that. Remember that this is a day that the Lord has made. So let's rejoice and be glad in it. Take some time today to notice someone, love someone, serve someone, be the difference you want to see in the world today. Good morning, X. How you doing, sir?
Good morning. Doing well. How are you?
Doing well. Not a busy weekend, but a couple things happening around the world today, around Alabama sports, and we'll add Kennington Smith third to the conversation to talk to us. But the playbook for today, of course, we'll talk about Alabama's big news on the court. Nate Oates, absolutely. I don't know if you call it grand slam, home run, touchdown, 3-point shot, whatever it is. Nate Oates proving to be the man in this roster management world. So kind of ask the question, is it Final Four or bust? We'll review the other things that happened over the weekend. Still have not addressed Bama's biggest football need. A little news around DB kind of, will Alabama get their DB? The Houston cornerback. This tells you all you need to know that we're in a new era of football. The Tide tried to get Houston cornerback Isaiah Hamilton to visit, but he committed to Ole Miss after canceling his Alabama visit. I mean, just let that sink in. What person? I wonder, has that grouping of words ever been put together? X. Alabama tried to get someone to visit, and they canceled their visit to commit to Ole Miss. Do you think that grouping of words have ever been uttered in the same sentence?
Probably not too many times, if ever.
I cannot remember. Now, that doesn't mean that somebody hasn't chosen Ole Miss over Alabama. But to not even come to Tuscaloosa, that tells you that's what you call that's where you hear like a guy is in free agency X, and he throws out his 3 teams. and he throws out his demands, and one team says we're not going to play ball. That's what that sounds like to me. So, do you think that there is any chance that Isaiah Hamilton tried to hold Alabama over a barrel because Ole Miss had already promised him something?
I don't necessarily think so, because with some more of the news that we got yesterday concerning the Alabama football team, I think they had there's been multiple corners over this weekend that were linked to coming to Alabama, visiting Alabama. And I think they had a guy in mind more so than anybody else. And when Hamilton went to Ole Miss, and if he did come back with a number, they were like, oh, no, we good. We're going to go with the guy that we probably prefer a little bit more anyway.
So you're thinking is that Alabama told him no? Who else was?
I'm thinking Alabama told him that.
Who else is Deshaun Jones visiting? Do you know? Was he visiting anyone else?
He had other visits lined up. Alabama was just his first visit.
So I saw where there was some potential interest in, like, from LSU, but you, with the craziness of today's world, unless it costs you money, a lot of money, I think you go ahead and get as many visits on campus as you can. But maybe they saw something that they liked, and of course Curtis Moore, the second, said the DB choosing to be in Pete Golden's defense, he has to be in the money bag. So, but no, that was kind of like I said. I don't know that I've ever seen a time when a DB has chosen. I mean, a visit where you just don't even take the visit to Alabama. We'll see. We got Mike from Opelika who wants to talk. Mike, welcome into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier on the Alabama One Hotline. What's on your mind, sir?
Oh, good morning. Well, that message you got was about what I was going to say. Can you imagine? Did you ever think you'd live to see a player wanting to go play voluntarily for Pete Golding? I mean, that is insane to me. I guess the guy hadn't watched many tapes of Pete's defense. But I tell you what, if Kiffin doesn't, hey, is the pressure not on Kiffin and Ryan Day this coming year, what they have spent in NIL money, that if neither one were to go to the playoffs, I mean, their fan bases would have to be devastating, wouldn't you think?
X, I'll let you respond first.
They've got a lot of pressure on their shoulders, and more so Ryan Day than Lane Kiffin, in my opinion. There are tempered expectations with Ole Miss. Ole Miss is in the SEC with Bama, Georgia, LSU. Like, Ole Miss is trying to get to the mountaintop, surrounded by other teams that have stayed at the mountaintop or been to the mountaintop. And then now you add Oklahoma and Texas, who have a more storied program history than Ole Miss does. Ohio State's supposed to be the lead dog, or one of the two lead dogs in the Big Ten. And Ryan Day has had how many first-round draft picks that are absolutely tearing it up in the NFL, especially on the offensive side of the ball? I think he's got like the last two or three offensive rookies of the year have come from Ohio State. You had Marvin Harrison go 4th overall. If he don't win this year, especially with Jim Harbaugh gone, all the guys off of that Michigan team, he's in real trouble.
Mike?
Oh, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly with that.
Mike, let me ask you this. Let me ask you a question, Mike. When you look at it, I think that, and I'm going to respond to that that question as a whole. But let me ask you another question while I got you on. Which one is the expectation? Is it an expectation that Ole Miss make the playoffs, but Ohio State is national championship or bust? Would you say that's probably the expectations of each, that Ole Miss at least makes the playoffs, or do you think Ole Miss has national championship hopes?
No, I agree with you. I think Ohio State has thrown everything in to win the national championship, and I think Ole Miss just making the playoffs would satisfy them. I agree with that.
Has Ole Miss ever made the SEC championship game?
No.
Are they the only school other than Vanderbilt?
I believe so. Missouri made it a few years
that's
ago.
been in the SEC for the duration.
Yeah, I mean everybody else. South Carolina.
Has Kentucky ever made it?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Has Mississippi State ever made it?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm quite sure Mississippi State
I cared about.
I think Mississippi State made it. So, but yeah, they're in that situation, Mike, where Ole Miss, I think that I think they have high hopes over there. And to me, they're probably thinking, if we don't get it this year, maybe we can't get to the mountaintop because, Alabama's losing what they're losing. LSU's losing what they're losing. And Ole Miss feel like they were the third best team coming out of the West anyway. And Mayo felt like they were better than Alabama and LSU last year. Just couldn't get over the top against Alabama. So we'll see. Anything else?
Well, I think this year is going to prove. I don't think you can buy a football team, assemble all these players, and have chemistry. And I think this is the year. Maybe you can. It may prove me wrong, but I just don't think you can bring in, 12, 15 guys, make them starters, and have, instant chemistry. And it'll be interesting to watch them in Ohio State to see how these players blend in together.
Yeah, I think you can do it on a small scale, like in basketball, percentage-wise. I think it's difficult in football, and we may get Kennington to come in on this, Mike. I think you can in football 1 year maybe, but to have multiple years like Ole Miss, I think is really tough because now you're building off of multiple years where you haven't had chemistry. And then at Ole Miss, the hard part is I think they add 25 dogs from high school that think they should all be playing, plus they bring in all of these guys. So right now, Ohio State probably has 40 new players. You out of 85. That's a little different than working in, 8 guys out of 12. I know it seems like it shouldn't be, but you're trying to get 40-something different pieces to meld in, and that's tough. We'll see. We'll appreciate it. And Curtis Moore II said Deion tried that last season with Colorado, and it looked like it was going to hold together. But when things went bad, it started to go downhill. So thanks, Mike. Great question. Great observation. Appreciate you over there on the other side of the state. You keep yourself safe over there in Auburn country, all right? We'll be back on the other side to add Kennington Smith III to the conversation. You can still get in with Kennington on the Alabama One hotline at 205-342-9904. That's the Alabama One hotline.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. We do have an early morning crash in Duncanville to get things underway this morning. This is eastbound McFarland and Mack Circle. However, no lanes appear to be blocked there and no big backups to the area either. If you're traveling along Lurling Wallace on 2059 or the drive along University, all are in good shape with light volume out there and no major problem spots brewing at this early hour. With your Tuscaloosa traffic now, I'm Ray Romero.
Townsend Nissan. How do you stay #1 in West Alabama? You do whatever it takes to make you happy. Townsend Nissan. #1 for a reason on Skyland Boulevard.
This report is sponsored by Mothers Against Drunk Driving.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
365, 24/7. You'll find road and utility crews, tow truck, law enforcement, and first responders working along Alabama's roadway.
We're making improvements and helping our communities stay connected.
We're working hard to make sure you're safe on the road. Now we need your help to make sure we're safe too.
Alabama's move over law requires you to move over a lane when you see flashing lights on the roadside. And if you can't safely move over, please slow down.
Visit DriveSafeAlabama.org. Brought to you by the Alabama Department of Transportation, Alabama Broadcasters Association, and this station.
Did you know that 90% of the lawyers you see or hear advertised aren't even in Alabama?
Just think about that. I used this guy, Stephen Mesrano, twice because he did what no other lawyers could do. He won for me, and he can win for you. Mez wins.
Thanks, guys. I'm attorney Stephen Mesrano, and I win. Call me, 205-800-8000, and let me fight for you. And when you call, you'll actually talk to me. 205-800-8000. I've got this.
No representations made that the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
Are you receiving unemployment? Your benefits could be at risk. Here's how you can protect yourself and your benefits. Never respond to mail notifying you of a false claim in your name. Never answer a text message asking you to verify your account. And only respond to official Alabama Department of Labor's social media pages. Report fraud at labor.alabama.gov/fraud. Brought to you by the Alabama Department of Labor, ABA, and the station. The Alabama Department of Labor is an equal opportunity employer program. Auxiliary aids and services available upon request to individuals with disabilities. Dial 711 for TTY accessibility.
Remarkable change begins with daring to be different. Baby, I'm on a mission with Boost Mobile, putting the latest phones in the hands of more people. Introducing the Signature Coach Prime Razor, only from Boost Mobile. Rush to your nearest Boost Mobile retailer and get your Signature Coach Prime Razor on us. Get after it.
When you switch in with ID verification, select plans only. Offer valid 4/19/24 through 5/23/24. While supplies last. Taxes extra. New customers only. Must remain active and in good standing on the $60 a month plan for 6 months to receive all credits. Offer subject to change.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Another very warm day today. Partly sunny with only a few isolated showers this afternoon or this evening. The high today 88. The low tonight 67. Tomorrow partly sunny. Showers stay few and far between. The high at 89. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 66 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
The Sound of Bama Sports. Your show, your team. The Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier on Tide 100.9, 12:30 a.m. WTBC. Don't forget to check out Billy's Cooking Restaurant, Billy's Cooking LLC. You can find them on Facebook at Billy's Cooking LLC, 205-632-8617. That's the phone number for pickup or to-go orders, or you can use DoorDash, Wing Wednesday, Fish Friday, Soul Food Sunday, amongst other great deals. Check out Billy's Cooking LLC. All right, X. We're going to break there. Mike from Opelika pointing out several key things there. The Ole Miss, not in Ohio State. He kind of put them in the same category. Jed Cohen responding while we were at break, that Texas A&M, Kentucky, Ole Miss, and Vanderbilt are the only ones that have not played in the SEC championship game. We'll get Kennington's thoughts on that. Which one of those fan bases is the most disappointed of those four? To me, it's an easy answer. But good morning, Kennington. Welcome in. How you doing, sir?
Good. How are y'all?
Doing well. Now, Kennington, has anyone given you the Rush Probst tutorial yet?
I watched two-a-days growing
Did
up.
you?
So
Did you?
yeah. Yeah.
It's oh wow. So that's even you go way back then.
Yeah,
But
watched two-a-days, and then he was in Georgia. I watched when he was at Colquitt. They were obviously very good. So being tapped into the high school scene, I know a little bit about him. What I do know about Rush Probst is that he's controversial, but he wins. That's pretty much my stance on Rush Probst. Like, he's gonna come in, it's gonna be
he's a lightning rod.
Exactly.
So if you can put up with the fallout of the side effects of lightning striking your place, you'll be electric.
Right.
But kudos to Nick Gentry, former Alabama football player, getting named the head coach there. So one man's loss is another man's gain in this situation. So hopefully, Pell City got a tough road to hoe, man. Hopefully Gentry has what it takes, but they're in a tough area, man. It would be like somebody getting hired at Vanderbilt and then being expected to compete against Georgia and Alabama and LSU and, and all of them. So good luck to him, though. Maybe he'll be able to get what he needs there. They say they want it, so we'll see what happens. Anyway, big news from the weekend. The obvious thing, of course, is basketball, so we'll say that for a second. Kennington, we were talking about Ole Miss and Ohio State in that first quarter being, kind of playoff or bust, or in Ohio State's case, national championship or bust. Of those two, which one of those do you think is going to lead their fan base the most disappointed this year?
I would say Ohio State, just because their bar is much higher than Ole Miss's. I think for Ole Miss, they're kind of shooting for something that has historically kind of been out of their weight class, I guess, in terms of what their expectations are. So if let's say Ole Miss makes it to the SEC championship game and they make it to the playoff, I think you have to consider that like a great year for them, possibly the best year that they've had. I guess it just kind of depends on what their record is and how it all shakes out. So I just feel like they have more runway to accomplish things than Ohio State. I feel like if you're Ohio State, it has to be winning the national championship. I don't think anything less than that you could constitute that as a successful season. You could have a great season, go to the national championship and lose, obviously, but everything that's kind of happened over the last few years and how much money they've kind of pushed into the center of the table to build this team, I feel like a national championship is going to be the only thing that satisfies that fan base.
I would tend to agree with that. We real quick back to the SEC. We were naming the four teams, and this may be a conversation worth having a later time. I'd just like to get your thought. Kentucky, Ole Miss, Vanderbilt, Texas A&M, four teams have not played in the championship game. How devastating will it be if Texas comes to the SEC and gets to the SEC championship game before Texas A&M? And would they clearly be the most disappointed fan base in the SEC, probably in a long time, being how much money they've spent over the years trying to get there?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I feel like they're already kind of like that most disappointed fan base. I mean, it's just been like one thing after another, honestly. Like, you think about all the chips on the 22 class, and then it's been, lackluster and Jimbo Fisher getting fired, biggest buyout ever, and the whole message board fiasco, kind of getting Mark Stoops out the paint, and they end up with Mike Elko. So I just feel like they're already kind of down as is. I think Texas kind of coming in, and especially coming in how they are right now. Like, Texas has kind of been an underachieving program for all of these years, but now with Sark, it looks like they're ascending. So that's just kind of like, twisting the knife a little bit if you're a Texas A&M fan. So definitely going to be disappointing and gut-wrenching to see Texas come in and be elite. And honestly, they could come in and potentially win the SEC year one. So that's going to be that's going to be interesting for sure.
Before Texas and Oklahoma, I said this when I first started doing sports radio. There's two programs that scare me. This was when Alabama was dominating under Saban. I said there's two programs that scare me. Georgia, if they get the right coach, and Texas A&M, if they get the right coach. Well, one of those has proven to be the case. I said Georgia because if a coach came into Georgia and locked down the state of Georgia and can just keep a high percentage of those players home, then still recruit outside of the state of Georgia, they will be a juggernaut. And we've seen that be the case. Texas A&M, before Texas came in, could have and should have been the same way. But they fell for the fool's goal called Jim. What was his name? What was that guy's name? Jimbo Fisher. They fell for that fool's goal when not calling him a fool. I'm talking about his one national championship, and he was a 9-3 coach at best, 8-4 most likely. So very, very disappointing. We got a caller that wants to talk to you. Alan, you're in with Kennington, Xavier Martin on the Alabama One Hotline. What's on your mind, sir?
Good morning. Good morning. Martin, I just sent you pictures of me in the snow right now up in Wyoming.
I see it.
We're coming out of it now. My wife has never been to Oregon, so we're headed to Oregon, and she's never been to Oregon, so we got to go through the snow to get up here, but we're on our way.
I see it, man.
It's not nice. I hate snow. But, you were talking about adding players and doing all that. Basketball is, you have lack of chemistry too. Look at Kentucky. They could not seem to get it together, and they were going out and get people out of the portal, getting all these recruits, and there was no chemistry. And not only did Ohio State not only got players, they went out and got some coaches that that they had to pay a lot of money to, and they all gonna be out of a job next year if they don't win it all. If they go to the national championship and don't win it all, it's a win all or bust. Or everybody, they're gonna clean house with everybody, assistant coaches, trainers, ball boys. There ain't gonna be nobody left in Ohio State next year. I mean, absolutely. The AD will be gone. I mean, the president may be gone from the college. So, he had to okay everything. And they're gonna clean house next year up there.
Kennington, to his point, I guess is the national championship. Do you think, because think about Alabama this season, we were still disappointed that we lost to Michigan, and this was a rebuild year for us. So if we felt this way getting to the national semifinals, are they? I know you said if they play in the national championship, they may call it, but are they national championship or bust?
Yeah, 100%.
And do you think the coaches lose their job if they play in the national championship game?
I don't think they would lose their job. It would take something colossal, like losing to this iteration of Michigan this year. I think would be a fireable offense. That's the only way I can see Ryan Day losing his job, is falling short of making the Big Ten championship. That's where I'm at in terms of his job security.
What if he loses to Michigan?
I think he could
gets the playoffs. Go ahead, X.
Yeah, that's why I said I think this could be a situation where Michigan drops the ball somewhere else along the way. But if they fool around and beat Ohio State, he'll be 0-4 against Ohio State. He's out the door. He could make that Big Ten. I don't think he coaches in the Big Ten championship game, regardless if they drop 4 in a row to Michigan.
Could he lose his job, Kennington, even if they make it to the national championship game?
No,
if they
I don't
lose
think
to
so.
Michigan.
Well,
I think go ahead.
Yeah, it's possible, but I just feel like to lose to Michigan and still make it to the national championship, I would just envision them probably being 11-0 at that point in the year. So I don't think that it would get to that point, but like that's why I said falling short of the Big Ten championship is where I'm drawing the line of him getting fired at.
Yeah. Hey, that's crazy to think that we even have to hesitate to think that a coach could potentially make it to a national championship game and lose his job. I think that they showed this year that losing to Michigan is semi close to the way Auburn feels about losing to Alabama, and that they'll go through a lot. They showed a lot in their hand in what they did this offseason in terms of trying to get back where Michigan isn't the top dog. So we'll keep it going. Thanks, Alan. You got anything else before I let you go?
I'm just curious about this. Is there a website you can go look at and see how much money Ohio State actually spent on NIL this year?
I don't think so. But I can tell you it's a lot.
All right, y'all have a good one.
It's millions. It's millions. Coming back on the other side, I know I've been teasing you guys, and hopefully you're still in there with me. We are going to talk about Alabama basketball. And hey, listen. You know that the rest of the world is saying the same thing about Alabama basketball that we're saying about Ohio State football, right?
100%.
Is it Final Four or bust for Alabama basketball? We'll talk about it on the other side right here on your home for Alabama Sports Talk 100.9 and 12:30 a.m. WTBC.
One nonstop party. Save a horse, ride a cowboy. Big and Rich, featuring Gretchen Wilson.
You know I'm here for the party.
2024 Celebration Tour. One band, one show with Cowboy Troy and DJ Sinister. Saturday, July 6th, Pearl River Resort Silver Star Convention Center. On sale now at pearlriverresort.com.
Do your city.
The Alabama Securities Commission protects you from financial fraud. Anyone asking you for investment money must be licensed. You're careful with your money. Fraudsters aren't. Before you invest, call our hotline at 1-800-222-1253 to verify the licensing of the person making an offer and the product. Don't lose your hard-earned money. Learn to protect yourself at asc.alabama.gov. Paid for by the Investor Protection Trust and brought to you by the Alabama Broadcasters Association and this station.
The good folks at Wendy's have a revolutionary new product for you. Introducing the new Orange Dreamsicle Frosty. It's like a time machine that takes you all the way back to now, the year 2024. It's the classic creamy, orangey flavor you remember. Dare I say, it's new-timey. It's the flavor you grew up with, just all grown up. Head over to your local Wendy's establishment and get yours while supplies last. The new Orange Dreamsicle Frosty. Here for the now, for now.
Limited time only at participating Wendy's.
This report is sponsored by Unbound.org.
Serving part-time in the Army National Guard has led to a lot of firsts for me. It paid for me to be the first person in my family to go to school. That education got me to the first day at my dream job, which I can still hold while I serve part-time. That job and the home loan benefits I got from the Army National Guard helped me buy my first house. I also know that I will be one of the first to respond if my community ever needs me.
Sponsored by the Alabama Army National Guard. Aired by the Alabama Broadcasters Association and this station.
Interact with the Martin Houston Show by calling us at 205-342-9904 or tuning into the Martin Houston Show on Facebook.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier. Make a little money here. The University of West Alabama is issuing a call to action. Earn $50,000 living wage stipend while earning your master's degree and serving as a teacher resident in Project Reach. This residency project seeks passionate individuals for a career change to education, looking for dedicated professionals with a bachelor's degree outside of education and a minimum 3.0 GPA. If you've never been certified as a teacher, now's your chance to join this great program. If you live in Tuscaloosa, Demopolis, or surrounding areas, you're the perfect candidate. You can specialize in fields like early childhood, special education, or teach subjects such as biology, English, and math. You can inspire students and create a brighter future for yourself and your students. The deadline is May 6, 2024. Apply to UWA School of Graduate Studies and select the latest admission date for summer 1 semester. We'll handle the rest. To find out more, email your interest to projectreach@uwa.edu. You will be contacted by a project leader. Earn $50,000 living wage stipend while earning your master's degree and serving as a teacher resident. Today is the deadline, so get in on it today if you're looking to make a career change. What better way to make a career change while making $50,000? So stipend there at Project Reach at uwa.edu. All right, man. So much to get to. Kennington. I put a poll up on the X or on Twitter, and the poll question is: with the addition of Clifford Omari, can this team reach the Final Four without Mark Sears? So first big question is: do you think the sports world look at what Nate Oates is doing as the same way that we were just talking about Ohio State?
I don't think it's viewed in the same way.
Right.
I think there's the expectation for Alabama to reach the pinnacle of the sport, like Ohio State, right? Like Ohio State national championship, Alabama Final Four, but it's not rooted in the same emotion. Like Ohio State feels like a desperate program. Like they're putting all their chips into the table to go all out to reach a point where they haven't gotten to, and it feels like they're desperate. It feels like Alabama is ascending.
Yeah.
It feels like they're kind of at like the tip of the iceberg of kind of what it could be under Nate Oates. Like, are they going to turn into a perennial Final Four team? That remains to be seen. But there's a lot more excitement with what Alabama's doing within their fan base. Like Ohio State, it feels like they're kind of walking on pins and needles a little bit. Like I feel like they're going to be going through the season like holding their breath every week, like just because the pressure is so high. Alabama's going to have pressure too. But I think they're kind of in two different realms in terms of where their fan bases feel about their programs, if that makes sense.
Totally, 100%. Now, there's going to be some haters out there that's going to say it, that try to make the comparison. But to your point, one is coming off of losing to their arch nemesis who won the national title, and that was the third year in a row that happened. And they went out and they were just grabbing whoever. The other part that I do, Alabama's coming off of a Final Four, and he's replacing. That makes sense. Like he didn't go out and sign a bunch of guys, then turn around and bring in a bunch of guys to replace the guys he just signed. I think that Nate Oates is literally showing how to handle roster management. In terms of in this new transfer portal world. X, you have anything before I transition to another question?
Yeah, with this, with the addition of Big Cliff, what is this? What is the floor for this Alabama team when you're looking at what they were able to do last year? Say Sears doesn't come back, he stays in the draft. Is not only is it enough, but where should Bama fans temper their expectations?
It just depends on who they replace Sears with. But I feel like even without him, let's say they get a Power 5 level starting point guard, I still feel like you have to look at them like at an Elite 8 level team. I feel like Sweet 16 is probably a little too low. That's a bar that they've kind of hit already. So I don't think fans would be necessarily upset with a Sweet 16. Let's say they sweep the SEC like they've done in past years, make it to the Sweet 16. It probably wouldn't be the postseason run fans expected, but I don't think anyone would be, raising their pitchforks. I think I would still put them probably in that Elite 8 category.
Can they make it to the Final Four without Sears? If they don't get anybody else,
it's hard for me to say that. It's hard for me to say that because he meant so much during that NCAA tournament run. They probably have a better supporting cast than last year, just top to bottom, but still the way that he elevated his play and elevated that team and his leadership, it's going to be hard to replace all of those things in a transfer player. I don't know what exactly the transfer portal market looks like right now for point guards, but I feel like all the elite ones, for the most part, are off the board right now. So it'll be hard for me to say Alabama's a Final Four team without him.
Was Mark? Would you have 2 years ago? Would you have considered Mark Sears an elite point guard?
That's the
Does Nate Oates
effect.
Huh?
I said no, I wouldn't have, but that's Nate Oates effect. I think
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is the Nate Oates offense? Does the Nate Oates take a really good point guard that makes him elite? Because I'm not saying that Mark Sears couldn't have did this 2 years ago. I think that chemistry probably Nate Oates trying to protect chemistry probably limited Mark Sears the year before.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, you definitely see kind of him elevating those type of players, but also there's been a trend of kind of like second year leaps under Nate Oates. So it'll be interesting to see like somebody, let's say he brings in a grad transfer on like a kind of like a one and done type of deal where they're just with the team for 1 year. It'd be interesting to see what he does with that type of player in like a 1 year setting. We definitely see the development under him. So I think that would be pretty interesting case study in kind of his evolution as a coach.
Let me ask it another way then. Loss of Mark Sears does in the addition of Clifford, does Grant Nelson step up in his game elevates? If Grant Nelson's game elevates in year 2 in the absence of Mark Sears, the way Mark Sears elevated in the absence of the guys that made room for him, does Alabama get there?
Yeah, I think that could elevate the team because Grant Nelson, the hype that he came in with, he was somebody that you looked at like if he can kind of become that first team All SEC guy, SEC Player of the Year level that he was projected to be, he could have been a fringe first round pick. So if Nelson can slide back to his natural 4, continue to play good defense next to Cliff, elevate offensively, play with more confidence, more consistency, and be a first round pick, I think that could kind of elevate the ceiling of the team. Yes.
Yeah. And I think that Grant Nelson could become that automatic 20. Now, I want Sears back, but I'm just trying to get my thoughts together. But I think Grant Nelson could potentially be that 20-point guy night in and night out, the way Mark Sears was. If he goes back to his natural position, I think his natural position with the
is a wing 4.
Yeah, and with Omari,
he's a stretch 4.
Yeah, and with Omari coming in, you can add 6 to 8 points to Grant Nelson's game, in my opinion. The question is, how much do you get? Can you get a 12 to 16 point guy, to replace Mark? And I think that's kind of the ticket there. Pat, you're in with Kennington and Xavier on the Alabama One Hotline. What's on your mind, sir?
Good morning, guys. But I think that Coach Oates has a better chance of going to the Final Four than Day does going to the Fabulous Four. That's my new name for the four. You wanted a name for the four in football? The Fabulous Four. What do you think?
You think that our chance of going to the Final Four in basketball is greater than what?
Than Day's chances of going to the Fabulous Four in football.
Kennington. I'll let Kennington.
So we're saying that Bama's team has a better basketball team has a better chance than Bama's football team or somebody else's football team.
Than Ryan Day's football
Ohio
team.
State's.
Oh. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. Oh,
you got money. You got money. I know you're not a betting man, but you got money. You can only place one bet. Which one are you putting it on?
Yeah. I would say football. I would say football just because basketball's postseason is much more unpredictable than football's postseason.
Absolutely.
In terms of like getting there. So I feel like I still trust Ohio State to like win the Big Ten and get that bye and have an easier path to the 5-4, we'll call it, in football. There's just way too much unpredictability in March Madness for me to confidently say Bama's got a better chance of going to the Final Four. But I could see both happening.
Yeah, you're talking about 12 teams versus 64 teams. You're talking about football is very, very, rigid in who's the best and who belongs at the top than basketball is. I'd have to give it to Ryan Day, especially with the hit that his biggest obstacle has taken this offseason with losing Harbaugh and the plethora of players now in the NFL at Michigan. I love Oates, and I think he can get us back there, but I couldn't bet money over Ohio State in football.
Yeah, well, Pat, great question. And we're going to, not fabulous, we're just going to call it Fab 4 for now, Pat. You can't say fabulous, just Fab 4. And here's the thing, and we had to get the break, Pat, is we don't know the history of the chaos of the football playoffs yet. Now, in 5 years, if there's always a lot of upsets and things like that, then you may feel more confident in somebody knocking off the expecteds, right? But we don't know that yet. We assume that those who are expected to win are going to win because that's what generally happens in football. But who knows if that's going to be an interesting thing, Ken. I'm going to hold that question. I'm going to hold this comment to the other side because we got to get the break. Ken, I got a question for you about, could we find a new Wimp Sanderson or tournament-type coach in football? We'll be back on the other side right here on the Martin Houston Show.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. Our crash in Duncanville is clear. This was on McFarland and Mack Circle. Side of the road, all lanes open and no backups through the area there. If you're traveling 2059 from Foster's out to Cottondale or McFarland in from Coker, crossing over U of A down to the I-20, you're in good shape. And Lurling Wallace is moving nicely as well with no big problems along the way. With your Tuscaloosa traffic now, I'm Ray Romero.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa thread.
Good Monday morning. It was a violent weekend across central Alabama. 30-year-old Donovan Ryan's dead. 3 others hurt after a shooting in the 1300 block of 58th Street East around 1 a.m. in Tuscaloosa Saturday night. 22-year-old Redrick Agnew is in jail right now, charged with capital murder. A shooting in Rosedale Apartments Saturday afternoon left a juvenile in critical condition. No other information has been released. Tuscaloosa Violent Crimes Unit continues to investigate. Click TuscaloosaThread.com for more news. On Hartley Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
Townsend Nissan. How do you stay #1 in West Alabama? You do whatever it takes to make you happy. Townsend Nissan. #1 for a reason on Skyland Boulevard.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice. Continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
For more than 25 years, workers at the Mercedes-Benz plant have enjoyed great pay and benefits and enhanced training. All of this is in jeopardy now. If the United Auto Workers Union wins the upcoming plant vote, the Detroit union bosses have their pockets lined while Alabama auto jobs will be shipped off to Mexico. Save these high-paying, quality automotive jobs for people right here in Alabama. Vote no for the UAW. If you've already voted yes, you can rescind your vote. Don't wake up and find your job shipped off to Mexico. Say no to the UAW. Learn more on Facebook at MBUSI Workers Information Committee. Paid for by MBUSIWorkersInfo.com.
Why do so many dogs suffer from weight issues, skin problems, messy poops, and low energy? It could be the popular dog food you put in their bowl each day.
Cody was sleeping a lot, wasn't playing.
She was very lethargic and not moving around.
Dry kibble just wasn't cutting it. That's why, after more than 45 years of experience of helping dogs make complete health turnarounds, veterinarian Dr. Marty created Nature's Blend. It's a freeze-dried raw dog food made with wholesome ingredients like premium meats, seeds, vegetables, and fruit. And once dog parents switch their pups to Nature's Blend, the results can be astounding.
She's got her energy back. She's running around like she she did like 5 years ago.
Miraculously, she's just feeling all around better. She's like a new dog. Thank you, Dr. Marty.
Get your dog started today and save up to 54% off Nature's Blend. Plus, receive a free pack of our best-selling beef liver dog treats. Go to drmartypets.com/deal or text DEAL to 511-511. Text DEAL to 511-511. All dogs are unique. Your dog's results can and will vary. Message and data rates may apply.
Keep it locked into Tide 100.9 for more of the Martin Houston Show with Martin Houston and X's and O's Sports Xavier Houston.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier. It's the Harvest Church 2-minute warning. Good morning, Kennington Smith III. Tell us where they can find you, sir.
Yeah, on X/Twitter at Skinny Kenny, SKINNYKENNY _ Skinny Kenny _ You can find me on theathletic.com or the Athletic mobile app, however you get your mobile app, searching my name or anything related to Alabama athletics.
All right, Kenny, as we were going to break there, we were talking about several things. A little rapid fire here. Is there, do you think the possibility of the chaos that we've come to love about March Madness, will there be some of that potentially in the college football playoffs? We've never had this opportunity because it's always been kind of the top 4, 5, 6 teams as a whole. But now you literally could have the top 14, 15 teams based on who's making the decision.
Yeah, I think it's possible. I think it's going to take the right type of coach. I don't know if we're going to see that early on in the playoff. I think as time goes on, you might see more teams kind of making that Cinderella run. Ironically, if we're picking a coach that we think could do that, I think Kalen DeBoer would have been a great coach if he wouldn't have been a great choice if he wasn't the coach at Alabama. Like if he was still at Washington, you would probably look at him as somebody that could probably, kind of turn Washington into one of those teams that could be just one of those like dangerous postseason type teams. Obviously, Alabama's expectations are different, but I think that there's going to be opportunity for some coaches to maybe make names for themselves as like really good postseason coaches.
Yeah, that'll be fun to watch that develop over time. When you look at Clifford Omari, we haven't really talked about him specifically. What is Alabama getting in CO?
Yeah, just elite defender, somebody who's going to be really, really effective around the rim, close to a 60% career shooter from the field. So somebody who's just going to be able to clean up a lot for Alabama defensively, do a lot of dirty work. I think it's going to be very important for people to actually watch Alabama play this year and watch the games because I'm not quite sure that his impact on the team is going to be reflected in stats. I think he's going to be a potential double-double guy, but what he's going to be able to bring to the team from an impact standpoint might outweigh his stats. But I think this is a huge, huge, huge addition and probably the missing piece to the puzzle of getting to the Final Four.
X.
Just a quick flip to football because got some news on the transfer portal trail there with the addition of Deshaun Jones, the cornerback out of Wake Forest. Bama has one more scholarship position available. Where do you think Bama goes with that? They've got interest from King Mack, the safety from Penn State, as well as Khalil Jacobs, the transfer linebacker out of South Alabama.
Yeah, I would probably still lean going towards defensive back. Just all the attrition there going back to, even January, I think you have to continue to bolster that position. I do like the idea of bringing in a Khalil Jacobs because he's familiar with Kane Womack's system, but I think bringing in an inside linebacker at this point will probably be a little bit more of a luxury addition. He has proven it has more experience than the guys behind Lawson and Campbell, but they do have some, capable backups at that spot. They definitely need more depth and playable depth in the secondary. So I would lean towards adding another defensive back.
So what's to me, the most glaring need is offensive line. What does Alabama do there?
Yeah, It's tough because you're at that point you're kind of recruiting for depth. I guess it just depends on the position of. I wouldn't be mad at another offensive line either. I feel like the quality of that right now in the portal is probably a little bit scarce. So I wouldn't be surprised if they try to, maybe go O-line heavy in the 2025 class and maybe try to supplement that in the winter portal window.
Yeah. So what do they do for 2024? Does Alabama have enough guys, or do you see some guys getting moved around, maybe a Booker or Olaf or something to address the O-line and create depth by flexibility versus just numbers? Because they don't to me, they don't have the numbers. That's part of the reason we played the 8A the way we did.
Right. Yes. I do think that there's a possibility for some switching around. Past that, I mean, this might not be a very sane answer if you're an Alabama fan, but they're just going to have to pray for good health. I feel honestly, I mean, I feel good about their frontline starters. Behind that is shaky. They're just going to have to pray that their starting five can make it through the majority of the year.
Well, I can tell you that the 1992 team, we had some depth, but I think we lost one starter for one game.
Right. It's going to have to be a year like that.
Yeah. And I don't care who it is. That's the difference in championships anyway. Real quick, I want to get your thoughts really quick on Nate Oates. Everybody's talking about the chemistry and all that. Nate Oates seems to go young and old. There's nothing in between in his roster management. Is that why he will tend to have a better chance of making a team male because of the maturity of the guys and then the youth of the guys?
Yeah, I think he does a good job of building his roster, just having really good balance. And honestly, I this might be a question for next week or another time, but he probably has the most popular system right now in college basketball. Alabama's a legitimate destination for players of all ages. So if he continues on this path, I don't think he's going to have any trouble building championship level rosters.
That's a great point. We'll hit on that a little bit. Is his system the defensive system that made the same impact of Saban to the NFL? Is Nate Oates' offensive system and the way they play defense the system that will get guys to the league? We'll see. We'll talk about it. That's Kennington Smith III. You can find him at The Athletic. Look up Kennington Smith III or Skinny Kenny _ on the X. Thanks, Kennington. We'll catch up with you next week.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Coming back on tomorrow, we'll add DC Capstone Report to the conversation. That's Xavier Houston. That's Kennington Smith III. That's Justin Jones. I'm Martin Houston. Remember this: trust in the Lord always, lean not your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. Roll Tide out to everybody. We'll catch you on tomorrow.
It's time to come together. Thank you for listening to the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.